Welcome to the Pennsylvania Historical Markers series. Thanks, everyone.
Hey everybody, this is John Viminod once again with the Hometown Historian channel. It is very loud around here, but right along Route 322. We've been doing a lot with the Cornwall Iron Furnace. This is one of, like I said, it's getting loud. One of the Pennsylvania historic markers for the Cornwall Iron Furnace. And this one here is built in 1742 by Peter Grubb near an immensely rich ore deposit and acres of forest for making charcoal fuel. A self-sufficient community included the ironmaster's mansion and the workers' houses. The furnace produced pig iron and cast goods and cannons for the Revolutionary War. Sold in 1798 to entrepreneur Robert Coleman and operated until 1883. It survives fully intact a few miles east of Cornwall.
Alright, so there's actually three different signs that just are all Cornwall Iron Furnace. So we're going to add a little bit on each one of those videos and talk about things a little bit, maybe take different routes on them, showing some of the old original pictures. This one's going to basically introduce the Cornwall Iron Furnace. There's been a bunch of pictures like this one up on Instagram, and some of them would have been seen to a degree in the different Cornwall videos that we've done. But just so you know the history of the Cornwall Iron Furnace, it talks a little bit about it on the sign there. But Peter Grubb, he wound out in 1730. He was prospecting for iron ore, and at this time it wasn't Lebanon County, it was actually northern Lancaster County. And he was looking around, and in 1732 he actually discovered three hills called Big Hill, Middle Hill, and Grassy Hill, and they contained the magnetite iron ore in the area that's now is part of Lebanon County. And these were quite substantial. I believe, if I'm remembering my facts correctly, Cornwall, it was the largest iron ore deposit east of Lake Superior. I believe that's true. Yeah, it's pretty impressive area. And I guess in 1734, Grubb returned to Philadelphia, and he purchased 300 acres of land from William Allen, who at that time was, I believe, the Chief Justice of Pennsylvania. For 135 pounds, which is an incredible deal. It was a lot of money back then, but still you think, wow, especially with what he did with the land. He also was granted an additional warrant 3 years later in 1737 of 142.5 acres of land, and on that land, that parcel of land that he had, were the three hills containing that, the Big Hill, Middle Hill, and Grassy Hill. In 1737, we did visit the Hopewell Furnace mansion, which is still existing from the original. I guess it was Peter Grubb, his one son, is the one that actually, Peter Jr., that ran those forges. It was the Hopewell forges. There was actually two of them on Hammer Creek, and they were used to smelt the ore extracted from the mine at Cornwall. Eventually, though, in 1742, he wound up building the first charcoal furnace right there in Cornwall, and that still exists. The very first picture was actually where the Cornwall Iron Furnace, and it's actually a really cool place to visit because there's so much history there, and just a neat place, and it still exists as it would have back then for the most part. After he died, he transferred, the ownership was transferred to his two sons, Curtis and Peter. I believe Peter was the one, once again, that was running the Hopewell forges, and then Curtis was running the actual Cornwall Iron Furnace. They eventually wound out, I guess the one Curtis granted, it was a 1/6 interest in the mines, and he wound up selling that to Robert Coleman who at that time was running like the mine operator and the furnace operator. So he was the head of all that. He eventually, by 1798, he acquired about 5/6 of it, except for the son of the Peter Jr., and that wound up becoming, I think, the Robizonia Iron Company or something like that. Eventually, they did. The Colemans wound up buying. One of the cool things to note is a lot of times in these company towns, which in essence this was to a degree, a lot of times they had their own stores. I mean, you were nothing more than an indentured servant to a degree. It was a harsh way of living, and the Colemans were very good to their workers, and they took care of them. They actually had allowed other people to operate stores that they could buy from. They could actually move to Rexmont, which was bought. The land around there had been stripped of all its trees, so the gentleman, last name of Rex, which is named after, wound up dividing into lots, so they didn't have to rent from the company. They could actually go and buy land and build their own home. So it was pretty good deal that they had there in Cornwall. The Colemans were quite good to their workers, and it's a beautiful, beautiful town. And we'll go further and further into this. This mine did operate until 1883. Well, the mine operated longer. The furnace shut down in 1883. And then the mines actually operated. They had a couple underground mines. I guess when Hurricane Agnes came through, I believe it was Hurricane Agnes, it wound up flooding some of those, and they felt like they could open it up again, but it would actually probably cost more to pump the water out than what iron was left. So they did sort of the above ground where they took the steam shovels in, and that lake, I think if you saw the one, it might have had it for Instagram, but we showed it in the video for the Cornwall Country Roads Take Me Home. That was what they operated, I think, until like 1973, and Bethlehem Steel actually bought it in, I think, 1926, and that's where Toy Town got built by Bethlehem Steel for more workers. And yeah, so we will have more in other videos. We'll have pictures of what it looked like back in the day. We'll talk about a bunch of the buildings that aren't there anymore, and just a lot of the different interesting facts. And we're going to do a video too where I walk into these different villages and show you it in video in person. I think it'll be pretty cool. So with that, I'll say thank you as always, and we will see you all about town.